Hi, Wendy.
Hi, how are you, Sherry, this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I think we're finally getting some spring weather, aren't we?
I think so. And you're all the way on the West Coast. I'm all the way on the East Coast. So we've got a little bit of different weather patterns going on, but
Yeah, but
uh,
it's nice.
nice to
We're
see the
getting
sun.
there.
For sure. So you've got some pretty important information to pass on for April. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why don't you just kind of go right into it because I know there's a lot building up.
Oh, there is. But first of all, I want to say I'm identifying for everyone windows of energy, okay? What these planets represent energetically. I can't tell you exactly when things will happen, exactly what will happen, but it's more like these energies are triggering, setting the stage for things that will occur. But it may not be now, and it may be in a few months from now. I don't know. But these energies are triggers
Oh
for
boy.
things like that. Okay. So we'll start with the new moon in Aries, late in the evening on March 31st. Now, this is the second new moon for March, which is unusual in and of itself. And so it happens late at 11:30 p.m. on the 31st on Pacific time, but then Greenwich Mean Time, which is Universal Time, it happens on the 5th, early in the morning on the 5th of April, or excuse me, on the 1st of April. Okay. And so that's interesting because it kind of overlaps what's happening on the 1st or on the
Yeah.
4th and the 5th of April. So this Aries new moon is very, very fiery. It means that the month is going to be very fast paced. It's setting the stage for, wow. When you think of Aries energies, you think of impatience, impulsiveness, aggressiveness, the desire to win at all costs. Those are all Aries energies. And so as we have this moon, we've got the moon and the sun together here, creating a new moon. But right over here on this side, we have Mars moving to a conjunction with Saturn. And it's within orb of influence right now. And then on this side, we have Jupiter coming into a conjunction with Neptune. Isn't that interesting? These powerful, powerful energies are all part of this new moon at the end of March. Okay. So we're going to talk more about these conjunctions that are coming together. Okay. And they're both within orb of influence. So it's all energetically apart. It's all building. Okay.
Right. So that orb of influence, which we've talked about before on the videos, is not necessarily exactly on that date, but there's always time
Right.
before and time and after
Right.
influence of those moons that these energies can still trigger certain things.
Right. And before and after, how long it happens, it depends on how fast the planet moves that's activating it. So Mars moves fairly rapidly. Jupiter moves more slowly than Mars. So Jupiter and Neptune, that before and after will take longer.
Okay.
So yeah, it depends on the rotation of the planet, the speed of it. So we're building into an unprecedented energetic showdown in our lifetime. Okay. And we're building, it's going to be the first next stage of it. We've got the moon, then the next stage is April 4th and 5th. And that's when Saturn comes together with Mars. And April 4th and 5th is going to be a very interesting day, and we're going to get more into it and the ins and outs of it. So, Mars and Saturn together are military energies. They're very militaristic. It's a hard word to say. It's about battle, war, fighting. Okay. On a personal level, Mars and Saturn represent taking kind of militant action within your own life. Okay. Now, when you're dealing with Mars and Saturn, it means you can get the work done. You can stretch to the limit and get things done. So in your own personal life, depending on the house it lines up in, boy, you can get a lot done because you've got a lot of energy for it, even beyond your limits. Okay. So the energy can be very good for that on a personal level. You know, if it's in the seventh house of partnership, it may be hard on the partnership. But in other areas,
What's in the house? Which
the
sign?
Mars, Saturn,
Mars, Saturn. Okay.
that conjunction of Mars, Saturn, if it happens in the seventh house of partnership, watch out. That's going to be a struggle. But in other areas, like if you're doing it with writing or in your first house of self or things like that, third house, you know, those are places where you can really get a lot done with the energy. 10th house of career would be excellent. Those energies would be very, very helpful. So, but on a global level, we've seen we had the Mars Venus energies coming together, that conjunction, which is the precursor for war. The war was started, of course, in Russia and Ukraine. And so we're in the midst of these war energies. And it's not, it's going to last a while. It's not going to go away right away. So this Mars and Saturn coming together is also squared the South Node in Scorpio. And this has a lot to do with revealing things like sexual secrets, like the dark underbelly of government. So people need to be aware that stuff is being revealed. A lot of this stuff will not be talked about on the mainstream media because it doesn't correspond with their narrative. Okay. They want people to think in certain ways. This is contrary to that narrative. So you want to find alternative news sources that are starting to talk about all of these revelations that are coming out. So keep your ear cocked to it, just so you can be aware of what's happening and you can know the truth. I think that's part of the problem with the media type of a blackout. In other words, it's only handling one narrative. You know, people can't see the full scale of what's really happening in the world. And that's what we want people to see, is the truth, right?
And that's really difficult because it's so hard to know who to believe. There's so many sources to go to right now. Mm-hmm. And it's really, you know, you have to use your own discernment, I think, to say, okay, like what makes the most sense?
Yeah. Well, we know mainstream media is not giving us the truth. I mean, that's just obvious. So you have to look for alternative to where it, you know, they're not being paid to say things a certain way.
Right.
So, all right. We are being pushed to the limit and people are feeling that. We're all feeling that energy, that push. And it will be building up for the April 4th and April 5th, when it is exact. And it's so interesting because Mars and Saturn are both in Aquarius. Well, what does Aquarius represent? It represents the people. It represents freedom. It represents the future. Okay. So you've got this warlike energy, and which typically comes about when this energy comes about, it's about controlling our freedom. And we had these two things come together in March of 2020 when the mandates started. Remember those severe mandates? Well, that was when Mars and Saturn were in Capricorn in March of 2020. And that's when the big push. Now, if this one in Aquarius, something happens to where they start to lock us down again or take away freedoms again, they're going to have a much stronger pushback from the people because the energy is Aquarian. People want the new. They don't want the old.
Plus, we're all tired of it.
Yep. And that's when you're going to see a much bigger pushback if those energies are used by the government against us again. And it's not just here in the United States, it's around the world. You know, it affects us all. So these energies are coming to a crescendo on April 4th and 5th, but they're going to be with us for a period of time. That's a trigger for actions to take place. So now all of this is happening with Mars and Saturn about a week prior to the beautiful awakening energy of Jupiter conjunct Neptune. Now, that is an aspect in Pisces, by the way, and that is an aspect that only happens once every 166 years. So it's never happened in our lifetime.
Wow. So it's like a storm coming through, comes in, hits fast, it's hard, it's fast, and then it moves out and you've got the rainbows and the peaceful energy.
Yes, and it is. I've heard some people talk about it like it's sparkly energy, like it's just sparkly and magical energy. I like to believe that.
Yeah.
I really
We'll
do.
go with that one. We'll go with that one.
But it is spiritual expansion for those who desire it. It is higher frequency energy, okay? And it is advancement in our ability to get answers. I love how Lars Muehl talks about that the third dimensional reality is the reality of questions. But to get the answers, you have to go in to the realm of answers, which is up here, okay? And so this energy helps us. This is a bump. It pushes us up higher in towards the fifth dimensional realm, okay? That's why it's so beautiful. But, you know, if you're awake, the advancement that can happen is going to be breathtaking.
Wow. You know, and I think about that because like I've been going through that over the last year or so. And it's sort of like the more you let go of control, the more control you have. It's kind of a weird thing, but you know, the more control you have, the more you fight and resist and push against something. You're trying to get so much control over everything, where if you just sort of let go,
Yeah,
you know, this peaceful letting go of, okay, it's not that I'm letting everything happen to me, but it's that I need to put myself in the right mindset.
yes.
Going with the flow of life.
We want to, through this energy, we want to stay in love and compassion and kindness, all of that stuff. Even though things may be going on around us that are not happy, that are warlike, that doesn't mean we have to live in that realm. You know, we want to live in the beauty. And typically what we believe is what we'll see.
Yeah, and something you always talk to me about is unconditional love. And when you first said that to me, it was just sort of a cliche that we always hear, but I was thinking that unconditional love means you love people without conditions. And there's so much conditional love going on right now. So it's not just love, but it's that unconditional love and forgiveness, which is so important when you really sit and think about that.
I know. When we realize that everybody's just like us.
Yeah.
And really the only thing that separates us are our beliefs. And a lot of those beliefs, you know, have been traditional things that have built up for so long. But we all want the same thing. We're all the same. It doesn't even matter what country we live in. We want happiness and joy. We want to be able to pursue what brings us satisfaction in life and just to be free, to be who we are.
Right.
You know, everybody wants that, you know.
Not get caught up in the expectations of how we think it should be, and that's it.
Right. And so this is where emotional neutrality comes in really handy. We want to be emotionally happy. We want to be, that's where we want to give our energy, right? We want to give our power to the beauty, to the love, all of that stuff. That's where we don't want to be emotionally neutral. That's where we want to be, yeah, man, I'm grabbing that, you know, and putting our power there. It's fine to give your power to your spiritual advancement. We don't want to give power to the third dimensional, you know, hatred and anger and war.
Right, because you sort of walk around like a zombie at that point. I mean, there's so many people walking around making decisions that are just not bringing life into their body. Right. And, you know, once you get to that point where you start letting go and you start to say, wow, this is all, you can feel the vibration rising up above you. like rising through your entire body, and you think to yourself, I'm starting to actually feel alive.
Yes. And it is such a beautiful feeling, and happiness and joy and bliss. And this aspect, enhances that, increases it. That's all very high frequency energy and emotion. That's where we want to dwell. And it's catching.
Oh, it's so catching.
We
And
behave
once,
that way, our energy's that way. Everybody that's around us benefits from it.
yep. And once I start getting out of balance with that, okay, come back to center, come back to center.
Yeah.
And you want to feel that bliss as long as you can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, on the other side of this Pisces Jupiter Neptune conjunction, for those people who are not conscious, or what those energies represent that foster some of the unconscious things that are happening, we'll talk about that. Now, we can just go into Neptune rules oil.
Mm.
And Jupiter's influence, what does that do? It makes things bigger. It's expansion in prices, right?
Oh.
Higher prices, okay? And what do those higher prices do for us? They increase inflation. And as a result of that, it's the highest, I think, in 40 years or something, inflation rate. So food prices are going up. Everything's going up because of the higher price in oil. Isn't that amazing? And it also has to do with, the food shortages and the supply line, or the breaks in the supply chain.
Yeah.
That's all part of that too. So also Neptune rules the seas and water, issues with water, flooding, and even toxicity with water. I mean, look at what's happened recently in Australia with flooding, unprecedented flooding. And then of course all the hurricanes and stuff in the ocean, lots of issues with water, big waves. When we think of Neptune, it's water like the ocean, okay? And this is how we can expect it to behave depending on our own emotional spaces where we are. So the waves come in and bring goodness and joy. And then what they do when they pull out is they dissolve the old structure, and then they bring in more goodness, these waves, and then more dissolution of structure. So think of those waves coming in and out, bringing us good, wonderful things, and going out and dissolving the stuff that isn't working any longer. And that's one of the things Neptune is really good at, is dissolving things that aren't good for us, okay? So also Neptune rules the media. Isn't that interesting? Addiction and drugs. We're going to have a big increase, okay, in drugs coming into the country, and overdoses and suicides, and bigger deceit even than what we've had from the media.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all part of it. Now, for those who are stuck in the third dimensional realm, and some people even like it, don't kid yourself. There are people that like the fighting and the anger and the hatred. That's where their frequency is. That's where they feel comfortable, okay? But there's going to be a bigger increase in delusion, collective insanity, okay? Also the hypnosis factor, where they've weaponized fear that hypnotizes people. So those things are going to increase. Also, maybe a bigger surge in the savior complex. Oh, just follow us now and we'll save you. Well, that didn't work very well in the past, did it? Last couple of years, it didn't work at all. So don't be fooled by those kinds of projections from the government. That savior complex is, anyway.
Interesting.
This can also represent a huge disclosures of information, more than anything we've ever had before. Things can and will be revealed to help us see where we've got to go from here. If we can't see the depth of the evil that's been going on in our world, not just here, but all around the globe, then we don't know how to move forward. We have to see it. And then we go, oh my God, we have to go in a completely different direction. We have to elect completely different people because
Yeah.
this is, it's wrong, it's evil, it's immoral. And I mean, we could go on and on with that. So,
And I know a lot of people feel like when they see it through their own lens, that you know, that they don't think that that could even happen, that people are capable of that kind of evil, you know, because that's just not the way you think. So
right.
it's really hard for people to grasp that, you know, what those puzzle pieces all put together start to not add up and sound very nice.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things I learned when I started learning astrology is everybody sees the world in their through their own lens, through
Yes.
their own imprint. And for someone like me who loves peace and harmony, to even think about doing some of the horrible things that some of these people do, I can't even imagine it. But there are people who delight in the evil, they delight in the darkness, and that's what we're dealing with now in the world, are those people who delight in the deceptions and the lies and the evil. And so we have to rise above that, but we have to see it to see the depth of it, so then we can move forward in new directions. And the people who are guilty of this hopefully will be punished.
Yeah.
Hopefully will have to pay for their crimes. But we can't sit back and wait for that. We just have to move forward.
Yeah, exactly. That's like someone like me, my astrological signature, you know, Pisces, Sun, Cancer, rising. So I'm very nurturing, love. I don't like anyone fighting. I don't like conflict. So I don't like any of this. It's just really, it shatters me to see so many people fighting against each
Oh, I
other.
know. It does me too. It's just not part of my makeup. So, one of the things that this will bring to us is much greater clarity. Right now, people are just confused.
Uh-huh.
They don't
Pretty
know what
much.
to say. Yeah. And so, through all of these energies and the things that are going to be revealed, it's going to bring about much greater clarity and give us, the ability to choose where we're going to land. Are we going to be in the war mentality or the bliss mentality? Okay. And we've got to trust in the divine, and we have our free will, and we can choose where we're going to be, where we're going to spend our time, and our mental energy. It's, for me, it's bliss all the way, guys. I
I
don't,
love that. Trust in the divine. That is so key.
yeah. Now, this is an interesting thing. And if there are any numerologists out there, I'd be very interested to get your take on it. Now, the energies of on the 4th and 5th of April, what will happen there is the Mars Saturn will be exact, and they're at 22 degrees Aquarius. So we've got Mars at 22 degrees. We've got Saturn at 22 degrees. We have Jupiter at 22 degrees. Sorry. Jupiter at 22 degrees. And then we have the nodes at 22 degrees. Now, this is somewhat unusual. Now, I know numerologically, the number 22 is a master number. It's a very powerful number. It's not a number that is brought down, to where it would be 4 and then a 2. It's 22. And so it just is curious to me if this has special meaning in the world right now with these 5 areas, all planets and the nodes at 22 degrees.
Yeah,
So
that would be great to bring someone on with us to talk about that.
talk about that. Yeah, that would be very, very interesting. So these energies on April 4th and 5th are extremely powerful, and maybe with the 22 numerologically, it could be a master energy for the world. Okay. So now, then on the 12th, that is when the exact conjunction between Neptune and Jupiter takes place. That's when it's exact. It's building now. They're within the orb of influence, but it becomes exact on that day. So more powerful. And then it's going to be there a while. It's going to take a while for it to dissipate. And so those energies, that conjunction, we talked about, it's like sparkly fairy dust.
I'll take it.
Grab it, bring it in, meditate. In fact, even now is a wonderful time to start upping your practice, your spiritual practice, calling in that. Remember, ask and ye shall receive. I think that is so important. And pray that we will be activated by this energy, that our spirituality will be increased, and that we'll get closer to the divine. Ask for it.
And I like how Greg Braden says, ask for it and believe it is so, and then receive.
Yeah. And remember that you will see what you focus on. I really want to focus on the fairy dust, guys, the magic, the spiritual magic. That's where I'm at, and when I see aspects like this globally, it's painful because I know people are suffering. I mean, the Mars Saturn aspect was exact when Hitler came into power. I mean, we have precedent through the ages of what's happened when these military energies come together, and there's war, and and I'm not talking about who's to blame for this or who's to blame for that. It has to do with the suffering of the people, not what the bigwigs want and decide to enhance their power. It has to do with the suffering of the people, and it's heartbreaking.
Very heartbreaking.
Yeah. And so lift them up, send your energy, use these energies wisely. And, Sherry is always reminding me of what I told her months and months ago, is that these are energies coming into you, not from you. So you have the ability to choose how you're going to respond to them.
I've been practicing that and saying that to myself every day for I don't know how long, but
Yep.
This is coming into me. You set the stage for yourself and decide how you want to respond.
And with the Aries energies, Aries is one of the pushiest, most aggressive, impulsive energies in the zodiac, and it's out there, fire everywhere, aggression. And so, and Aries always likes to win. They like to win the race. And so you have to decide, are you going to let that impulsive energy into you to control you, to steal your power? Or are you going to say, no, I'm going to stick with the soft, spiritual, quiet whisperings of source?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Power. Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice. Very nice.
So, and then we'll talk about what's happening the second half of April. This was enough for one day.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, right?
Yeah, and so we'll do another video for the next new moon, which I think is around the 15th, 16th of April. And but enjoy the ride. Use your free will wisely.
Okay? Yes, sure, definitely. And if you guys need help at all, I attest to Wendy's support and guidance through everything that I've, been going through the last couple of years. And she's been super helpful. The readings are amazing. The accuracy of pinpointing exactly how I respond in life and helping me to respond in a better way has been so helpful. So we'll put a link below for your astrological, full astrological readings, which have just been life-changing. And the spiritual coaching.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, no, thank you.
And if you like these videos and you want more of them, be sure and push the like button and subscribe to our channel so we can get more of these out there for you. We really appreciate your support.
Yeah, absolutely. We try to spread, the reality of the situation that you see astrologically, which that's your gift, like an incredible gift. And then also being able for the two of us to talk about the healing and processing those things so that we can all expand into a higher consciousness and that bliss that we talked about, that fairy dust that we talked about earlier. Kind of seeing that, you know, a lot of it is also on you. It's your accountability to determine how you're going to respond to it. So the healing is such a big part of everything. And together we can really help each other.
Yep, absolutely. So blessings to everyone through
Blessing.
challenging times.
Yep.
Send out the love.
Yep. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye all.